the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans. Pass the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans.
Pass the beans.
Pass the beans.
Pass the beans.
Pass the beans. The Beans Talk. Hey Bean fam, it's the Beans Talk podcast, and we are four educators of color bringing you raw, authentic conversation about society views and community engagement. I'm Fabs.
I'm Steph. What's up, y'all?
What up, crew? It's Ro.
And this is TJ.
And we are here with Shamika, the founder of Vibe.
Hey.
But before we get into that, we have the do now.
Yes, y'all. So an interesting conversation that I had with a friend of mine last weekend, which really got me to thinking. And so the question that he brought up that I would love to bring to everybody who's repping with the Beans Talk is, when did you first realize that you were black?
Wow.
Yo.
Dang, you gonna start us off like that, bro?
That deep.
Leave it, yo. When did you first realize you were black?
Dang, that's tough. I'm really trying to think. Like, I went to so many.
I know.
What pivotal
I feel like
moment?
a lot of my schools were like black based.
Oh,
too, like,
I think actually I'll start. I think when I started school, I think I realized that I was black. I was in the Project Choice program in Hartford. It's like it's a program where city kids are bused into suburban schools. So for elementary school, high school, all like throughout my entire education, I had like a predominantly white. I was around white people. So I was like one of like maybe 20 kids of color, and it was apparent. It was apparent. I mean, I'm grateful for the experience. I think in some ways it was a very, the education I got was a lot. It allowed me more opportunity than going to a Hartford public school. But it was definitely, my blackness or my otherness was definitely on my back. It was like a sign on my back that I just felt it just being different at the school. So
yeah, I get you. I
guess I'll go next, man.
Yeah,
something that I was thinking about, and I brought it up with my homeboy, is that life post Haiti is when I realized that like I was black. Like, so going to school in Haiti, like I knew we knew we were brown. Like that. There was a big difference. Like neg maon, like that's, which means brown man. Like that's what we knew that we were. But when I came to America, I was like, okay, there's people who are not Mawan. Like I always knew there were others who weren't brown. But I remember in elementary school, one of my classmates, I got bullied a lot in elementary school. A black boy, he put a piece of paper, the black paper, next to my face. And he was like, damn, we don't even know where Rose at. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm black and not brown.
He needs a little butt beat.
Yeah, I don't care where he's at right now. Screw him. But I was like, dang, like I'm black, not brown. And it's not messed with me, but it's definitely been something I've thought about decades later. Like it's like, damn, now I'm other. I like that otherness piece that you brought up. Although he's also black, but I don't know, man. It really messed with me. But it was that piece of paper next to my face, and I was like, damn, I'm black.
he was also black, but not dark skinned.
Not dark skinned, yeah.
So it's like colorism.
Yeah.
Thing too. But
Yeah, I was actually going to like comment on that example because I feel like for me, when I realized I was black, it was not like, oh, I'm black, but more so trying to fit in that I'm just as black as you because I have lighter skin.
Yes.
So growing up in the South, I always heard the terminology red bone.
Yeah.
I hate that word.
Yeah.
I hate that word. And it was always this kind of battle of colorism in between. And I think that I also realized that I was black as it related to experiences of black males inside my family. So my experiences that I saw sort of like some injustice or where I saw black being kind of compared to something that was wrong or bad was through black men in my family, which is kind of powerful as I think about it. As I think about like my brother who passed away, and then there's this one moment in particular that I think about with my dad. I remember my dad, I'm such a daddy's girl. You guys know.
We know, Steph.
You guys know I'm such a daddy girl, so I'm gonna try not to like get too emotional while I'm talking about this. But even though my mom and my dad separated very early, while I was young, my dad always remained a part of my life.
That's dope.
So he would like pick us up from school. He would still we'd be at his house over the weekends. He still like take us out. So I never had the experience of not having my dad around. And so I remember this one time he picked us up from school and he was dropping me off at my mom's home healthcare business because I worked in the front as a secretary at the time. And I remember we were almost there and my dad had got pulled over by a cop while we were almost there. And the way in which that cop was like talking to my father and treating him and being disrespectful. And I think he got pulled over because of a tail light being out or something like that. It wasn't like he was breaking any big laws at the time, like speeding or doing something dangerous. And so I noticed a lot of times, like when other people were interacting with Black men inside my family, just how rude and dismissive and exclusatory I felt like they were to them. And I realized then, like, dang, I'm Black.
You're ugly.
Because of the people who I loved. And even like the people who were darker around me, who I realized my privilege as a lighter skinned person with friends and family who were darker than me and the treatment that they got. I realized that very early, on top of like people calling it out in school. But it was something I was always like consciously aware of and tried to operate around. So,
wow.
Yeah.
All right, so for me, it's a little bit different. I feel like being Haitian already and growing up inside of Black communities overall is really difficult for me to be able to differentiate like my feeling. And when I first felt Black, because I always felt like this sense of being apart and outcasted in some way, even within Black communities, because being Haitian was derogatory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was very difficult. But I think the very first time that I felt, I think I had a few moments to be honest, but it wasn't until college. And we were driving back. It was Ronnie, Steph, and myself. We were driving back from Charlotte, North Carolina, going back to Atlanta. And Ronnie was in the back and we had all our stuff in the back. We were piling back in.
I remember this.
Which oddly enough, it was that's when I really actually felt it. And so there was like this car that was really tailing me, like right behind my car. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like, I feel like I'm driving. Okay, there's space in the other lane. What's the big deal? So, I move over to the other side. And I felt like I signaled. You can just kind of like, tap the signal and you're good. So I tap the signal, I move over to the side, and then like there's a car that's like driving beside me. It looks like it could potentially be a cop car, but there's no like definitive markings that this is a cop car. Then he slows down and then goes behind me, puts on the lights and pulls us over.
Oh God.
So Ronnie's in the back. Okay. And he got locks. I got locks. My locks are like right here. And so now, I pull over. And this right here was probably this was the most terrifying, most scariest moments for me, to be honest. And I was like, yo, this is nerve wracking. You know what I mean? And now this white cop comes over. He's bald, blue eyes. Not to say anything like bad or anything, but it's just like, that just made it far more terrifying for me. And so he's like, I pull my window down and I got my license, got everything out. And he's like, step out of the car.
Oh, shit.
Mind you, I don't know my rights or anything like that. I'm terrified. I'm like, yo, I don't want nothing bad to happen. Or, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just going to listen to this dude. I'm going to do everything he said, because that's how we grew up inside the house. I'm always like, make sure if a cop pulls you over, you do every single last thing that they tell you to do. So I'm like, okay. And, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get out the car. I get out the car. I'm standing outside. Next thing you know, he's like, go into the car. And I'm like, I'm sorry?
Wait, going to his car?
His car.
Yeah, the cop car.
I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, go into the cop car on the passenger side. I'm like, the passenger side. I'm like,
I'm tripping.
All right.
I hate this story so much.
I'm like, all right, I could do that. And then so I'm sitting in there. He has my license. He's running everything. What I think he thinks is that he thought that maybe I had some weed on me or something like that. Maybe I was smoking, locks, brown skin, brought another black man in the back, car packed, and another black woman in my passenger seat. So for him, he probably thought that my car was raggedy. I had a hoopty. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so now it's like,
wait, is this after you repainted too?
Stop. No, not yet.
Wow, there was
we didn't have to bring that up.
I'm so happy you did.
We didn't have to bring that up. Continue. But anyway, I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and so I'm scared out of my wits, y'all. I'm so terrified. Even now, I'm thinking, my heart's pounding just thinking about it. It was like truly like a terrifying moment for me. And so, he runs everything. Everything is clean. Duh. Like I'm completely clean. Nothing, not even a speeding ticket, no nothing. And so he's like, all right, it seems like, I don't know. Well, not the case now. Yeah, no. that's then. This is now. But yeah, it turned out like, obviously my stuff was clean. I had nothing on my record. He was like, okay, well, it seems like you were fine. I only pulled you over for, failure to signal. But you can go ahead and get on. He was asking me a whole bunch of questions like, where you going and all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm going back to school. It's my second year of college.
That was probably a surprise for him.
Yeah, I know. My hoopty and all. But
college kids have hoopties.
Yeah, all the time. But at any rate, that was my experience. Very terrifying experience. That's when I knew, like, damn, my color really, and I guess my locks really can be very defining for other people. Very stereotypical. But
yeah, man.
It is.
It's crazy.
It was nerve-wracking, man.
Wow.
Terrifying.
This is a good question. I think for me, I've always known that I was Black, but and I also experienced like colorism as a kid and learning within the Black community. Kids making fun of each other because of different skin tones.
Yeah.
But for me, I think where I was looked at differently for being Black was when I started applying for colleges. And not like the application process, but actually going on the campus tours. For some of the schools that I went to, being the only person of color sometimes on the tour and being looked at differently by those on the tour with me or just other college students
on campus
happening to be walking by at the same time and just staring, looking at me as if I didn't belong. I think that's when I like realized wow, like being Black is an issue for some other people.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point,
man. Something that just went through my head quick fast. I remember having a conversation. So my niece, y'all know my nieces and nephews mean everything to me. But for the longest time, my oldest niece, the way she would differentiate color was she would say, Tati Rowan, this person is peach, this person is brown. And her entire early life, that's the only two ways she described color was peach and brown. And I remember when Mama got in the 6th grade, bro, and she came home and she was like, Tati Rowan, I'm Black.
Wow. How defining.
I don't know why it got to me so much. I was like, damn. Now Mama is going to have to move through life knowing that she's Black and that's all. Like, I know she knew she was brown, but there's just a lot more that America places on Black or that Western nations placed on Black. And I was like, damn, somebody just changed my little lady's life because it was always brown and peach. And now she knows it's black and white. So I don't know. That really messed with me.
No, that's heavy. That's really, really heavy for sure.
It really got to me still.
Wow, bro. Thank you very much for bringing that do now to us. That was heavy, man.
Wanted to hear from y'all, man. Want to hear from y'all too.
Yeah, please.
That time is over. We're proud to be Black.
Okay.
Yes.
This
I'm
is
Black,
the time.
y'all.
All different
Absolutely.
shades.
Yes, it is.
All different experiences, all different cultures.
Yeah.
Black is back.
and all different shades as well.
I thought I said that.
Definitely
too.
said that.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I didn't.
Wake up, TJ.
Saying all different shades as well.
All different shades.
Like you're pointing something new out.
I see in the mirror. I don't know. Maybe
It's all good, TJ. I'm happy you said
Now
I
I know.
emphasized it. Okay, I said it twice. It was on purpose. See? Y'all not paying attention.
Okay.
Emphasize it.
Let them know, TJ. Let them know.
Now I know you listen to me selectively.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So it's time for the community circle.
Yay!
So
I've been waiting.
I know. So for this segment, it's essentially our opportunity to interview a guest, and our guest today is Shamika. And Shamika is the founder of Volunteers Incorporating Black Excellence, also known as VIBE. And this company or foundation is dedicated to creating volunteering experiences for those who identify with African diaspora or those who like to volunteer alongside those that do.
Okay.
VIBE events take place each month in Boston and surrounding cities. Signature events entail volunteers networking and coming together to share their experiences.
Dope.
Yeah, which is
Dope.
really,
That
really
sounds
dope.
dope.
I'm feeling the vibe. Feeling the
Y'all catch that word?
vibe.
Play.
I know, I love that. I
That is
love
so
that. I'm
dope.
really excited to learn some more about what we got going on. We're going to go ahead and start with TJ.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds, Shamika, it sounds like a really great project to start. How did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, so I've volunteered at different points in my life, but more so as an adult. When I went out to volunteer and sign up, I noticed that there was a lack of diversity in who was showing up to volunteer. And I even like at one point started my own like volunteering group for like young professionals, and I was like putting it out there on the internet. People were coming, and I made myself a minority in my own group. And so like I put it on pause, and I really thought carefully about like, I want to do this again, but how do I address this issue that I've noticed? And so I restarted it as Volunteers Incorporating Black Excellence with the focus of getting people of color out in the community and getting involved in giving back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So dope.
Very
Wow,
nice.
wow,
I
wow.
like
No, that is really so dope, Shamika. I really applaud that completely. Just hearing you talking about this giving back piece, right? What is one common myth about giving back to the community that you'd like to debunk? Because you said you weren't seeing us show out at these events, at these volunteering events. What is one myth you want to debunk?
Let's see.
Or several myths, whatever floats your boat.
Well, I have a myth about VIBE.
Okay, talk to us.
It is called Volunteers Incorporating Black Excellence. And the majority of the people that do come out and volunteer are people who identify as Black or with the African diaspora.
Okay.
But you don't have to be Black. Like just to name, like we do need allies in this work to diversify the field and to also experience, get the volunteer experience and spread the information of like the needs of the community and the resources that are available. So I think that's like one myth.
It's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's a sentiment that Black people don't volunteer? Is that something that your organization is trying to highlight or I would say maybe to Rose's point, trying to debunk that idea? Because of the lack of diversity that you saw before, I wonder if the attitude is like, oh, this just isn't a Black people thing, or there isn't space for Black people to volunteer. This isn't something that we do.
Black people volunteer.
Word.
I think it's raising awareness about it and getting more people involved. When I think about reserving spots to volunteer at certain organizations, I think if you already have a partnership with a company or a big corporate organization and you know, like if I reach out to them, they'll come and volunteer, that's where you're getting the majority of your volunteers from, but not all those organizations are diverse.
Yeah, man.
And so Black people volunteer. I create a space for Black people and others to volunteer together. And to address your question, is that like a myth that Black people don't volunteer? Black people volunteer. I think we just need to raise more awareness about it and create more spaces for us to do so.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So is it, you create this event, this VIBE event, is it a networking event for people who volunteer, or do you volunteer at the event? Like you're like, the event is the volunteering for an organization, or is it just like a space for volunteers to like network and talk to each other?
Yeah, good question. So when I create volunteering events, I connect with different organizations or I create my own event. And if it's with an organization, we reserve a certain number of spots for our volunteers. And then we sign up, we volunteer. So sometimes it's just people from VIBE. Other times it's VIBE and other volunteers that organization was able to have for their event. And so we go together. And so while you volunteer, you meet other people who signed up through VIBE. Sometimes we have volunteers that return. So there's returners, and then also you meet other people while you're out there volunteering based on whatever the task or activity is. There are times where I do volunteer and mingle. And so after we volunteer, just like vibe, we get together and we go out to eat and socialize.
And vibe.
And
So
vibe.
dope. So
Catch a
dope.
vibe.
Yeah, you can't exclude food.
I know.
Right? You get people
With
out
those
there.
that identify with the African diaspora.
Yeah.
Speaking of, how does that resonate with you, the African diaspora?
Yeah. So it is Volunteers Incorporating Black. I use the word Black and I use African Diaspora because I know not everyone uses the term Black. So I wanted to broaden it. But I think it's a good question. I think growing up, I grew up with a lot of people who are from the Caribbean.
Shout outs to us.
Yes. Shout out to y'all. I knew a lot of people from the Caribbean, and so that's like what I knew as a kid. And I went to school, and unfortunately, my education did not include a lot about Black people or Black people in this country.
Yeah.
And so when I went to college, I realized like I need to, now that I have the chance to educate myself, I can choose what courses I want to take. I need to educate myself. So I started taking more courses like on Black literature, and I started joining different organizations on campus just to learn more about the Caribbean, learn more about what it means to be Black in this country. And so I identify as Black, but I do acknowledge the African diaspora, and people are in different places in the world.
That's
and
so
identify
important.
as Black.
Yeah,
That's
it's
dope.
so important.
I kind of want to know a little bit more about Shamika.
Okay.
Let's find out.
Like,
I love this.
Find
like
out.
I'm feeling the vibe, pun intended, and I want to know a little bit more about the person behind the organization. So, where are you from? Like, what are you into? Like, what are your hobbies? What types of things do you like to do on your free time? Who and what inspires you? I know I just asked a series of questions. Feel free to ask. Feel free to ask. These are just some ideas on how you can just, introduce us to Shamika and who she is.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, you did ask a lot of questions.
I tend to do
Who
that
am I?
sometimes.
I'm an educator. So I also think it's important to get involved because in addition to giving back to like where I grew up from, I think it's important for educators to know about the communities that their students live in and the communities that you work in.
Yep.
So it's important for me to know like the needs and what resources are available so I can share that information. Things I like to do. I like art. I like looking at it.
Okay.
Drawing.
Oh, so you also
She's an
creative.
artist.
Yeah, sometimes. I enjoy music and traveling. I really like traveling and experiencing new things.
Dope. So
That is.
tell us a couple of places that you've been, or like the top places that you've been in the U.S. and then the top places that you've been outside the U.S. if you've been outside.
In the U.S., I just went to New Orleans this year.
Ooh,
On my
jelly.
list.
I
never
definitely
been there.
want to
Jelly.
I really, really enjoyed it. I did like the typical tourist things, and I also did a tour on like the Black history in New Orleans.
That is
Nice.
dope.
So you went to the plantations and
I did not go to the plantations, but I
Okay.
learned about the neighborhoods and just like different things that have happened in the city.
Cool.
That's in the U.S. That's like a more recent trip for the U.S.
How was the food?
It was good. It was good.
I
Yeah,
bet.
it was good. Yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
New Orleans, yeah.
as we're talking about the
Great
Black
food.
history of New Orleans, he says how's the food?
Hell yeah! What? That's history too. There's history.
You
in
ain't
food.
lying. You ain't lying. I need to know about the food.
Okay. It's a big part.
That's a huge part.
There's great food there. Outside the country,
Haiti.
I have not been to Haiti yet, but it's
got
on my
you.
list. It's
Okay,
on my
I got
list.
you, I got
So
you, I got
We have
you.
to connect after.
We definitely will.
I think the last trip I took outside of the country was to Thailand.
Wow.
Jelly place I want to go.
Jelly.
How was that?
Yeah, it was really great. It was a great experience. It was my first time traveling and not knowing the native language of the country, or even like in other languages we share the same alphabet, but that's written differently than in English. And so just being a tourist, going around visiting different places, like the people at our hotel would like talk to someone for us, and then they would connect us with someone else, and then we would like travel that way. Thailand was cool. Yeah.
That's so dope.
Question about Thailand.
Yes.
Asian country. How was it being a woman of color, like being black in Thailand?
That's actually a good point.
Yo, I wonder.
Question. One city I went to, there were some people who were staring at me and asked to take pictures of me, or didn't ask and took pictures of me.
Wow.
So I might have been the first black or brown skinned person they've seen. Which was interesting. And then I think I've also like some other cities, there were like a lot of people from a lot of different places.
Okay.
And so I actually didn't stand out in the sense of how I did in that other place where people were actually taking out their cameras to take pictures.
And just flashing your face. Flash.
That was just like, but that was like one minor part of the trip.
How did you respond when they were taking pictures of you without
Pose for
asking?
the camera?
Just like,
Well, like I was posing, and then all these cameras came out, and I was like, oh, they're not taking a picture of what I'm posing in front of is actually like me. So it was,
God.
Dang. Here you are trying to get the perfect Instagram picture.
I've never experienced that before, but it just made me think about like, that's like one reason why I travel to experience different things and to meet different people and different cultures and ethnicities. Right. And so it just made me think about not everyone has that opportunity to do that.
Good thing that you did. Another thing to point out though, like with you traveling and with Black people or people of color traveling to these places, it's really important because they're so curious because they don't see Black people traveling to these places and stuff like that. So just wanted to point that out.
And I'll also say, to your point too, Shamika, just having the exposure to different cultures and like knowing the way other cultures do things. I remember when we went to study abroad in Ecuador, and Fabs and I were there for maybe like a month and a half staying with a host family, but this is when I was on the thicker end.
Still cute though. Still bad though.
I was on the thicker end, and my host family, my mother there, she or a lot of people referred to me as, what was the phrase? Gorda guapa, which means pretty, like beautiful fat girl. Wow. And so I was so offended.
How did you know that's what it meant?
I was there. We were immersed and we were taking like Spanish classes. We were there for Spanish. But like if you weren't from there and, in America, somebody calls you, a fat girl, a pretty fat girl, like you would not.
Offensive.
Yeah, it would be borderline offensive, but it was like a compliment or just like a way to communicate.
Yeah. I was uncomfortable anytime somebody had said that, so I can't even imagine. Just imagine, like another time that I think, like when we were in Ecuador, even in Spain, when I went to Spain, like they would refer to Black people as like negra, and when the first time, don't get me wrong, the first time someone had said that to me,
that was too close.
I was like, whoa, wait, what you mean negra? But I'm like, oh, okay. It's no big deal for them. So maybe it's no big deal for me, but
Hey, I actually, speaking of this international kind of talk, it makes me think of your company and like, what are you trying, like, is a goal of yours to like eventually move to like volunteering into different countries and expanding in that way? And like, what's your goal for your company?
Great question. I think, so last year I actually won a trip with an airline.
No big deal, but big deal.
Yeah. Not sure. Yeah. I got, you see these emails and you never think like you'll be the one to be selected, but I was just like, hey, let me try this out. And I was selected.
That's lit.
With 50 other people, and we were able to bring a guest with us. And it was like a surprise trip. And we ended up going to Punta Cana just to volunteer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it was, this was last November for the annual like day of like thanks. So anyway, sorry, I bring this up because while I was there, this is before Vibe. Like I've had different volunteering experiences, but while I was there, it really like reminded me like I actually really need to get back to doing this. And so volunteering overseas is definitely something that I am interested in doing. Not right at this moment because we're still like building, still growing. But that is something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think there's a very high interest, especially because I'm an educator too, and there's this high interest among high school kids that are going to college. Like some kids have this pressure of like feeling like they have to go to college immediately after high school. But like there's a lot of gap year programs where kids can like volunteer. I have a friend who actually did it, but who like where you can like volunteer for a year overseas, and it just makes me think of like the ways that Vibe can expand so that that's a real thing, like to partner with schools and to partner with like organizations overseas. I just think it would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely something that I'm looking into.
That is so dope.
And which organizations have you partnered with? Like, give an example of like 3 of them.
A lot.
A lot. That's great. No, but that's good though.
Like one in particular was City Year too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
City Year.
I create, so like there's a lot of organizations, like I contact them, I say, can I have X amount of spots? They say yes. And then we go out and volunteer. And then there's like other organizations where I'm like, hey, do you want to collaborate on this? Like I bring Vibe, you bring your audience, and we collaborate together and we go to like an organization to volunteer. So it works different ways. But in terms of places that we volunteered at, multiple food pantries, food banks, painting schools, raising awareness about suicide prevention, mental health.
That's dope.
Do you do like
outdoors.
the MSPCA, like animal stuff? Like animal?
Not yet.
That'd be great to do.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me, like, do you focus on one thing? And my answer is no, because in addition to like diversifying the volunteering field and getting people involved in the community, I want to raise awareness about the needs and that there are organizations and resources available. And so I try to do a lot of different volunteering things to bring awareness to all of the resources that are available. And
Absolutely.
I want to acknowledge that different things interest different people.
Word.
Who are the people that usually volunteer? Because in my head, I think like high school kids that want to build their resume, like, oh, I volunteer. But then it's like who's your typical clientele for your company? Like,
Yeah, I think mostly like young professionals, people of color.
Yeah.
Would you say that there were any struggles or failures that you came across along the way, and what were like some of the largest learning moments for you, or the greatest learning moments for you?
Yeah, I like the word learning moments. I think everything happens for a reason. And
Yes,
I
it
just
does.
take it as a chance to grow and learn. But I guess some things, what this whole process has taught me is to start small. I think in general, I have a lot of ideas and I just want to pull it all out at once. But with Vibe, I've been very intentional about just taking small steps at a time. And I think something that I think about often is like, when do I do my events? Like, should it be during the week or should it be on the weekends? Just thinking about like what availability different people have. Like, should it be in the morning? Should it be in the afternoon? Should it be in the evening? And so those are like different things that I have to think through when doing my planning.
Definitely. That makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
One more thing I would name is that I think when I first started, definitely like I was just like sign up. And I wasn't saying like sign up and commit. And that's the part I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And so like with that additional push of me saying like, hey, if you sign up, I understand life happens. If you can't make it, reach out, just let us know so we can release your spot to someone else. And I think with that push, like we've seen a lot more people come out and attend. And so I think that's something I didn't do in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure that made a difference in terms of like the turnout, everything like that. What would you say is one of the most notable events that you might have put on or participated in?
All of them.
Great question.
I'm being silly.
I think they've all been different experiences. I think there's food. Well, I think one of the food pantries in Roxbury that I've been to a few times. I think they're all great experiences, but I think that one in particular, just speaking to different people there and knowing how important it is to see people of color out there.
Yes, it is, man.
When we're passing out the food to other people of color also. And letting them know that, like, yes, we hear you, we see you, we notice you, we acknowledge you, and we want to support you.
Yeah.
And I think that was made really clear when we went to volunteer at that.
That's amazing.
Food pantry.
That's huge.
That's so beautiful.
A huge difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people of color serving people of color. And same thing like with educators, like having educators of color.
Educators of color.
Teaching students of color. It makes a huge difference. Such a large impact.
Question for you, Shamika. So hearing you speak about this food pantry, like, you know, we were able to see that like people of color saw that like we care and that we want to provide in any capacity, right? So Vibe, obviously, right now in your life is one of the biggest parts of your journey. Fair to say? What impact do you want Vibe to leave that will transcend beyond you?
Yeah, great question. So like the first is like diversify the volunteering field. And I want not just like to diversify, but I also want it to be a wake up call to different organizations and say like, hey, we need to reach out to other places to get our volunteers, or we need to talk to the people that we're recruiting from and say like, we value diversity. We would like to continue this partnership with you. And we think it's important to move forward with you, that you need to make diversity something that's valued at your organization. So I think that's one. The second thing is like I've named like probably like 50 times during the session is just get awareness about what are the needs and what resources are available. And then like the third aspect that I think Vibe does offer is just meeting other people, meeting other volunteers, and creating a space for that to happen.
Great.
I love that, man.
Great.
I guess that I love that legacy question, bro. Like, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Definitely.
It's powerful.
And I'm thinking about sort of the final question. Now that we had like the final question about Vibe and your organization, I would like to leave a final question about you and who you are. If you could choose 3 words to describe who you are as a person, what would
Just
they
three?
be? Just 3.
Only 3.
You can only pick 3 words.
Wow. I gotta think about this. Just 3 words to describe me. 3 words. I would say passionate. What else? I gotta think. I have to choose carefully. It's just 3 words.
It's a good point.
Passionate is good.
Passionate's a really good one.
Reflective.
Memoria. I like that.
That's a deep one. Right
Yeah.
there. That's so important. A lot of people need to adopt that.
Yeah.
Passionate, reflective.
Why are you looking at me? I have passion. I don't need that.
Ain't about you. Ain't about you.
Driven.
Nice.
Nice.
I'll say that.
Passionate, reflective, driven. Very, very powerful and potent words, y'all. Seriously. Shamika, thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It really was.
Thank you. Thank you.
But really, before we do any closing, you already know that we got the word of the day.
Oh, shoot.
It's the word of the day.
What's it
I gotta leave y'all with something good too.
So I have the word of the day today. Brings me back. It feels like magic beans again. I know. But this one, I've been actually seeing these words pop up a lot lately inside my life or this season of my life. And so I just wanted to put it out there for all of you. God has your name in rooms your feet haven't entered yet.
He does.
He does. And the reason why I chose this is because as we are like wrapping up this year and we're about to transition into 2020, there's a lot of opportunities that are there for you. And we might be so stuck and caught up in our own life and our own failures as we might define them. And so you have to remember, like, your plan is already there for you and your name is already in those spaces. You just have to like position yourself to be in front of those doors to open them. So
I like that.
That's so true.
like
There's
that.
so many times when I forget that, you know what I mean? Or don't think about it and you just are caught up in the moment, feeling stressed out. And you're just like, yo, I feel like I'm failing. I'm not where I need to be. I'm so behind. But it's very true. It's very true. Your name is definitely in certain rooms and
Start
spaces
drinking.
that.
Yo.
Okay.
Some people do start drinking.
Some people do.
No,
hit the
but-
bottle. I don't know. Like
I'm over.
we have guests.
guys.
Let's try to keep it cordial.
Yo, literally was having this conversation with my director last week, man, and she was talking about how she was telling me, like, you know, a lot of transition is happening in my life, but she was like, Ro, your name is at tables that you haven't even pulled up a chair to yet. And so we at all times, like, even when, like you're saying, Fabs Baby, like when shit seems like crazy and it's like not going the way you want it to, but like, remember, your name is somewhere that you haven't been at yet. Your feet, say it to me one more time, please, Steph, the word of the day.
Your name is in rooms that your feet haven't entered yet.
That is so flipping true, man.
It's too damn true.
Dang.
It's too damn true. Thank
crazy.
you for sharing that.
Seriously.
It's really, really important to keep that in mind during those times of difficulty and conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shamika, is there anything that you would like to leave for our listeners today, or any advice that you would like to give them in the spirit of vibe?
Yeah, definitely. So we put on a few volunteering events a month. This month we're volunteering in Cambridge, and we're going to be giving out socks and supper to those who are food insecure and home insecure. So definitely check us out.
Yeah.
The Beanstalk
We
will
gonna
be
be
there.
there.
We gonna be there.
First off, I just really want to point out how much I like the fact that you said food insecure and home insecure.
Never heard that language, yo.
Wow. That's
Never heard it
so
like that.
That's deep. I like that.
Thank you.
That's much better.
I didn't create the word, but
No, thank you for teaching
Bringing it
us,
to the
though.
table.
Yeah.
Bringing it to
and
the
you said
fam.
you're going to be serving supper.
socks and supper.
Socks
Yeah.
and supper.
I like that.
Do you know
I'm
what kind of
excited.
food that will be there?
For
It ain't for you.
the volunteers.
For the listeners, I'm asking for the listeners.
You hungry, baby? Okay, for the listeners. Okay.
Yeah, you get more people if
But-
it's a popping food. I bet you.
Leave it to TJ.
Also, I was going to say you can find out more about our events on wearevibe.org or on Instagram.
Ooh, .org.
Volunteer.wearevibe. And we have some things coming up
Yeah.
in December as well. So go to our website, subscribe to our newsletter,
We will.
and come on out, get involved. It's okay if it's your first time or if you volunteered numerous times.
Pull up.
Yeah, pull up.
Pull
catch
up
a vibe.
on me.
Pull up.
Pull up on me.
So guys, you heard that, all right? Homework.
Yes.
First thing you need to do is go ahead where you at right now, pull out your phone, pull out your computer, iPad, pencil, paper, if you still using that. Okay,
2019.
we are vibe.org.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and go to that website, sign up for our next volunteering event. Follow on Instagram, and you guys always know to check us out at the Beans Talk Podcast. We are on all major streaming platforms now, so please check us out and enjoy our cutting up in the space on YouTube. So check out our YouTube video, leave
Please
us
and
some
thank you.
comments,
Please and thank you.
leave some reflections for Shamika as well.
Please do.
And as always, guys, we love you.
Join the conversation, y'all. We out.
Always
Yes.
out of here.
Bye.
Wow.
Hey!